How sweet are the tidings that greet him there as he wander in exile from home. Can we do it in my mother tongue? Apologies, ne? So, imnandinda vendleleni yesihambi 2. Himnandinda bendleleni yesihambi esazula kude nekhaya kuseduze hakusugu simchengi masinyambusu figile huyeza masinyane huyeza emhlabeni lapha izihambi zona zifumanise ikhaya lomsindisi. Last stanza, hallelujah, amen, hallelujah. Futhi ngokwethembeka so bakhona. Linda nithemba nikube yisikhathi umcele sesofumana. Together uyeza masinyane uyeza emhlabe nilapha izihambi zona zifumanise ikhaya lomsindisi.
Thank you so much. We have found the missing link. If she can join us at the panel. Then I will ask that we all fill up here because it's going to get heated. It's like you already know that there's something wrong here. You're already running away. But I want people here. See these seats? I want them to be filled here. This is one discussion we're not running away from. Not today. You're not going to run away. So I want, hi, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These seats, they must be filled. Let's come forward, please. It's just unfortunate that our young people, they are busy in classes. I would have loved for them to be here as well, because this is for them. It's for adults, but also mostly for our adolescents. I would have loved, but we've got assessments tomorrow, so I will forgive. So church, as you are, there's still 2 seats here, and there's still a seat here, and there are 2 seats here. Oh, no, ngeke. No, guys, there's a seat here. There are 2 seats here. There's a seat there. There are 2 seats there. It's hot. It's gonna get hotter. Okay, so church, as you're aware, it's the Health Ministries Department today, and our theme is HIV and AIDS awareness. So if you were here from Sabbath school to Divine, actually, can I assume that we were all here during Sabbath school? We were here. Okay. Brother Mahlangu, Sabbath school, what did they talk about? Let us recap.
Okay. Yeah, my nugget was that we, as a church, we should love and care for those who are living with HIV. Yeah.
Thank you. And then Divine, our preacher was Elder Mashtisho, the man, because it's Elder, Doctor. Oh. So it was Elder Mashtisho, the man. He gave us our sermon. Can Elder Sambo tell us, Elder Sambo, the woman, tell us the nugget for divine service. Let us recap. Can we give you the mic? They can't hear. Yeah, because I think you're making a very important point.
Good afternoon, church. What I'm saying is that I just want to echo what Brother Mashango talked about, that the divine service focused on love, that we should love one another. If we are a loving church, we'll be able to take care of each other. And then he gave a lot of examples that people will know that we are the children of God if we love one another. But I just want to also to mention about an example that he gave, that as much as we're talking about HIV AIDS, it's not a death sentence, but at the same time, we should stop playing with a snake. Because if you play with a snake and it bites you, you start blaming God. Meanwhile, you knew a snake and a snake can bite. So HIV is like a snake. Thank you.
Thank you very much. She has opened up the can of worms that I was going to go to. And the keyword being the snake, it does bite venom. So she has touched on it already. So that was the morning and the divine. So afternoon, we're going a bit deeper. Why I'm saying we're going a bit deeper, if you had noticed, it was HIV, people that are living with HIV, people that are affected by HIV, and the community and the church. So now I want us to talk about a target group that is also prevalent in the HIV space, and that is our adolescents. I want us to tackle HIV and adolescents. This is going to, let me put a disclaimer, it is going to be a very uncomfortable conversation, but it is a conversation we need to have as a church and as a people. We, as much as we are a church, but we are human beings, and we've got children who are growing and they're going out into that world where the snake is biting and they are running after that snake. So it's, like I said, it's a disclaimer, it's uncomfortable, but it's a discussion that we're going to have. We're going to call a spade, and it's going to be very interactive. I do have my panelists where you are going to ask all the questions that you will have about adolescents and HIV. It's three doctors in front here. So for me, what I know is a doctor. They know most of the things. We know they say they are human, they don't know everything, but no, they know most of the things because they deal with these things every day. So they deal with HIV every day. They work with children every day. They work with adolescents every day. So that is the topic that we're covering this afternoon. I just want to give a few nuggets, a few facts, then we'll get into it. So how it's gonna work is it's so interactive. I want you guys to engage. Let us engage. And why I want us to engage, because we're not going to talk about adolescents that are outside. We're going to talk about adolescents that are here. That's why I was saying I was hoping they would be here, but they are not. But we're going to talk about your children, our adolescents in the church, because they're not they're not exempted from what is going on out there, and how best are we going to prepare them, because these are the realities of life and it is happening. So I tried to look for the latest survey, but it didn't give me what I was looking for. So we just go with the 2017. It says that 2017 survey showed that 3.7% of all adolescents in South Africa are living with HIV, of whom 2.7% are aged 10 and 14 years. And 4.9% are aged between 15 and 19 years. The highest prevalence was among adolescent girls aged 15 and 19 years. So this is the age groups for our adolescents that we will be talking about. Again, we have them in our church, ages between 15 and 19, 10 and 14. We have them. Why are youth or adolescents at a greater risk of HIV infection? Other than HIV and other STIs, other reasons, the real reasons, they often have multiple short sexual relationships and do not consistently use condoms. As sad as it is that we are saying this, adolescents between the ages of 15 and 19, they are engaging in sexual activities and they are not protecting themselves. And that's the higher risk that is there. I want to also, before we have the questions in our minds of to say, what about those that were born with it? Church, we are not talking about adolescents that are born with HIV today. I want us to talk about adolescents that are engaging in sexual activities and they're putting themselves at risk because they are not, one, the reason that has been given, they are not using condoms. Two, sex education and awareness. At schools, we know they are doing them. Sometimes it's even part of the curriculum. But are we giving that education and awareness in our homes? Let's think about that too. And if you do, have you started having the conversation? And if you have, how are you having the conversation? So that's what we are going to look at. And another reason is peer pressure. Peer pressure is real and it's a reality, especially in universities. It is happening. First years are always at risk because they are first years, they are new, and there's always, the seniors they're looking at, oh wow, the freshmen have arrived, and. Our adolescents here, some of them are preparing to go to the universities. Have you prepared them for this journey? This is to you, church. These are the questions that you are going to answer. We've spoken about the risks. Some, apart from peer pressure, we do know that other adolescents, they come from homes that may be very, very underprivileged or poverty also leads to them engaging in sexual activities with older men. And that is for monetary gain. That is also happening. We might be here at Centurion Church and we're thinking that our children are protected because they're with us here right now 24/7, but they're still part of the world. They are still part of the society that is out there. And these things are happening. So this is what we're going to engage in. I think it's straightforward. Like I said, it's a very difficult conversation. It is, but we are going to have it. Because then as a church, what are we doing? What can we do as a church? Have we not been in denial? So these are the questions that you're going to have a look and answer. And whatever questions that you have, it's an open discussion. So it's not merely presenting to say adolescence and age. I've given you just the highlights, the nuggets, the facts of what it is, and we all know what it is. And you have questions. The panels, the doctors are here. And if I don't see hands, I will pick. That's just how it's going to work. But as a church, are we not in denial? Are we not shielding these things under the carpet? And then when things happen in the near future, and then we're like, "Aish, but it's the devil." This is why I had said I liked what Elder Sambo had said about a snake and you go after it and it bites sometimes, and this is it. This is the snake. Our adolescents engaging in sexual activities, going after it. And sometimes the peer pressure. So, you as parents, what do you think should happen? Or should I say, can we start with questions? Do we understand? Yeah. Yes. No. So I'd said the age is between 10 and 14 and 15 and 19. Those are the adolescence actually starts from 10. Yes. Adolescence is 10 to 19. So the 2.7 that are affected with HIV is between the ages of 10 to 14. And then 4.9% the ages between 15 to 19. Infection rate per year. Yes. Yeah. So when someone dies with HIV, it's not to say it's gone. It's there because we pass it on. And how do we pass it on? Engaging without proper prevention measures. And our adolescents are doing this. No, for some. For some, it's good to put a disclaimer to say for some. For you, it's comfortable, but for others, it could be a taboo. Hence the disclaimer.
I think for me, it's a comment coming from colleges. I read a newspaper article some few years ago. I think in college, I don't know the statistics when you reach when you compare to risky behavior in colleges. I think for me, I think that is one of the most dangerous places. There was an article that was written, I think it was in the Sunday Times some time back, is where one senior student had slept with so many first years. Yeah, essentially some of the senior students, it's like they make a targeting first years when they come to varsity. Now the problem that some of the kids in first year, they have different backgrounds and they don't know anything about these sexual issues. So they become prey to some of these senior guys, especially senior students like in third year, fourth year, especially second and third year students. Now the most at risk is the first years. So I think if you have a child going to university, I think the conversation has to really occur in the home and talk to them. I have a child, a girl, and she was at Free State for 3 years. I was jittery now. Will she come out intact there? Because you see, you can teach what they do there, you don't know it during boarding. And also, when they get there, depending on the friends, because the friends influence behavior as well. So it is, yeah. So it becomes a very risky thing. If your child goes to university, especially boarding, and they come out in one piece, nothing happens. We should thank God. Yeah, yeah. I think.
Okay, I've noted, thank you for that, Elder Chimoka. I've noted Elder Sambo and Sister Diana, I've noted you. Just before we go to your question, I just want to give it to our three around panelists. They can give their opening comments first, and then, yeah. But I've noted.
No, thank you very much. One of the most important issue is
with the teenagers and in the youth is that after being diagnosed, the challenge becomes at home. They don't know whom to talk to at home because the parents will be just angry, not willing to support, and the then this young person now depend on the friends uh, to to ask questions, and then and also to the health workers. When he arrives home, home becomes a very uncomfortable place. For this is why you find them, some of them attempting suicide, others starting to even to do very bad at school, despite the availability of treatment, as we discussed in the morning. The main issue is that the parents sometimes they blame themselves because they know they have not done much. But sometimes you do everything, but they still go astray, and they end up with the infection. So I think what she's trying to say is that, or we are trying to say is that it should be discussed earlier. We know at live orientation at school they discuss it, but if it's not emphasized at home, it becomes a very difficult situation where they now depend on the friends for advice. So what we should be aware of is that these children, they only spend time here on Sabbath, and when they go out there, they meet with people or children who don't even know how to pray at home. Remember, in most of the government school, there's no longer prayer. So these children they meet outside there, they don't even know that there's God exists. So their aim is just to survive, and then this our children now meet with them outside there. So if we don't do our work very well at home and talk about it, they will discuss with these friends at home, at school, and then the children will be led astray. And then I think the emphasis is that we need to talk about it and then openly so. Most of the senior adults, they've got a culture where they say there are things not discussed in the house. Sexual issues, and there are two things which never get discussed in most homes. Is sexual issues and money. They're never discussed. So it is important that you start discussing them. You know, money is not discussed. Sexual issues is a no go area. So let's start to discuss them, and we'll help our children as they grow. Thank you very much. I will comment again later.
Good afternoon. Um, it's true, it's very, very difficult to find children and parents openly discussing things. We know that when kids grow, especially when they become adolescents, some of them become very, very, uh, what is the word? Rebellious, right? Either because they are angry because certain things happened as they were growing up, or maybe the environment at home is so hard. It is so difficult at home for children and parents to interact. Mom and dad are very strict, and discussions, open and free discussions, do not happen, such that even when a child has made a mistake, they have committed something wrong, they find it, they don't have a way to take it out, and they stay alone with guilt. So indeed it's very, very important to be able to create an environment where children are able to openly talk about the challenges. Schools these days, where our children spend more time, they are infested with people of different characters. Some, even those who are expected to be taking care of children, they are literally vulturing on them. And the children come home unable to say what has happened to them at school, because they are threatened. You dare say what happened between the two of us, you are dead. And then the child stays with all this hurt, with no one to talk to, until when it's too late, things are discovered. So it is very, very important that children have a safe haven at home, so that when things are hard out there, they can always go back. And I am happy in our church, the issue of home is very, very important, because without a home, it's very, very difficult to grow and be nurtured. That's why God started with Adam and Eve. He started with a home, right? He didn't start with a boyfriend and a girlfriend. No. When God created, He created a husband and a wife, isn't it? And children were born within that environment. And that shows how important a family setting is. But if we Adventists, those who are supposed to be at the forefront of family matters, we ignore and neglect them, then it becomes a problem. The idea of a father being a very, very strict person that the children cannot talk to, or a mother being unable to discuss issues with children, it's a serious thing. And it is very, very important that we take it as something that needs to be taken care of. Young parents, young wedded people, I think it is the responsibility of the church to teach them, to teach and show them, now that you have just gotten married, this is the road, this is the journey that you have started, and it is better to take it this way. If we do that and we help walk with the young ones who had just been married, it is going to help make it easy, because they are also having their own personal issues. It's the new world they are facing, right? So they need someone to take them along, those who have walked the road, to help them walk the road. And as we help the young married ones and show them, because they may not have been exposed to that which they are going to experience, they need that hand to say, look, in marriage, this is what's going to happen, but remember, you are going to have children, and your children are now going to grow in this generation, and these are the challenges that are associated with this generation, so that they walk the road at least with some light, and then they are able to do some research. That's my 2 cents for now.
Happy Sabbath, church. One of the most difficult things to do is to speak after those with wisdom have spoken. Just a disclaimer, Sis Portia. Not all doctors know everything, and I would want to put myself in that category. All right, so today's topic, especially in the light of young people, adolescents, as we know, Generation X is a very difficult generation to deal with. They are not to be underestimated. There's a lot they know that we do not know. We would do injustice if we don't mention drug abuse, which is closely linked to sexual immorality among young people. And so, as parents, although I've got very young children, I want to believe that adolescents seek a safe space, even when they're in that rebellious phase of life that Dr. Mashitisho mentioned. They need a safe space, which unfortunately the church doesn't always provide due to the moral standing of the church. Now, the issues we need to address is how to create these safe spaces. If they are to adhere to treatment after being diagnosed, they need to feel comfortable enough to speak to us as parents. And I'm not only talking about physical parents, but spiritual parents as well. we tend to be very judgmental because we don't understand their points of view. Sometimes it's vulnerability that leads them to these spaces. You know, many children are going through a lot of bullying in their spaces, and though they try to do some of these things just to fit in, not that they are immoral, not that they are seeking attention, but they're simply trying to fit in and seem normal. So creating safe spaces would be something we should probably consider, not only as a church, but starting at the grassroots, as a congregation, as Lyttelton. What are we doing for our ambassadors? What are we doing for our pathfinders? Ages 10 to 19. These are very scary statistics when you think about it. For anyone to think of a 10-year-old engaging in sexual activity, that is completely crazy, but that is what is happening. Some comes from media that they are exposed to. Not to judge anyone, but we tend to think by availing technology to our children, we are helping them advance technologically, but we are actually exposing them to so much more. The other issue I'd want us to mention is sexual orientation, because it's not only same sex, you know. Now there's the issue of lesbians, gays. Transmission also happens in these circles. It's not only female and male. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to mention.
Thank you very much. So those are our opening comments from the panel. So a lot came up, safe spaces, apart from the church, but I also want to add our homes. Are they also a safe space for our children? Besides the church as a church, safe space, but our homes as well. Parents, are we open to having those conversations with our children? Sister Diana, yes, you can come through. I seem to be
Okay, no, thank you very much. Um, I must face the camera. It looks artificial when I'm facing the camera. What do I do? Maybe I should sit down. I look like a reporter. Um, I hope my comments will not be all over the place, but my concern really are the children in this church, our children. The 10-year-olds to the 19-year-olds, they are my concern. I was asked by the Pathfinder Club to go and talk to some, I think those were 12 to 15-year-olds, about some of these issues. What I realized is that these children um, are not keen on having their parents when we are talking about these things. I was the only adult there, and I had to be as open as possible, because I think as a church, we tend to pitch it very high. We don't pitch it at their level. A 10-year-old is an adolescent, and they are starting to have those sexual feelings. And we as parents will not dare open our mouths and tell them that these feelings here are natural. It's something that God created. And if God created it, and you know our children are now maturing much earlier than they used to, than we used to, find that an 8-year-old is already an adolescent, and they're having these feelings. So what do we do before we even have this child being diagnosed with HIV? What do we do as a church? We need to talk to our children and tell them about these feelings. We need to tell them that these feelings have been created by God, and they are for marriage. They are not for use now. But what do you do now? And we need our children to know that. I laid it out for the girls to say, these are the danger zones. If any male comes and touches you here, 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 that's a danger zone. you might find yourself in a point of no return. And you know, they looked at me at first, you know, embarrassment, because it seems like it's a topic that is dirty and we shouldn't be talking about it. But as we talked, we became more open and free. We need to tell our children that if they go along with their sexual feelings and they end up finding themselves in sexual activity and they have multiple sexual activities, they're at a risk. But we at the same time cannot encourage our children to be engaging in sex and telling them that they should be using a condom. Our message is that we abstain. But it's not enough for us to just say abstain. That is not enough. How do you abstain? We have to tell them, you have to abstain like this, like this. What if, auntie, those feelings come? What do I do? We have to have answers for them. That this is what you do. You don't touch yourself, because once you touch yourself, that is also starting another, you know, another thing that you might get addicted to. So what are our children supposed to do so that they don't even end up being HIV positive? We have to come up with pointers for them. Exercise, but we just don't say exercise. How do we exercise? How do you manage your time? What do you do? How do you feed your mind so that you've got thoughts that are taking you and distracting you away from these natural feelings that God has created? So I think as a church, we need to have those talks with our children. Open talks, but these children also need to feel safe with us. Yes, because at the same time, these children said, Auntie, if I have to tell you that an elder came to me or a pastor came to me and this is what they did, would you believe? I said, yes, I will believe you. If you come to me and you tell me that, because that was the other thing, stay away. Don't be in places that will compromise your safety. And if anything has to happen, report it to the next person. Do not be afraid. So those are my points. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest problems that we have with regards to our young people is the way we respond when they talk to us, because that will either bring her or, you know, repel them. So when a child comes and they say something, judgmentality doesn't work. We shouldn't be judgmental. We should allow them to say what they have to say. Yes, many times as parents you get shocked, isn't it? So the other thing is how I manage this shock that I'm getting, which is one thing that also makes it difficult to deal with. If you are approached by a child and they say, look, this is what happened, and it's for you, it's a hot stone, rather be honest with the child and say, look, this one is the hottest stone I can't handle. Can I find someone for you who will be able to handle this stone of yours? Rather than shuffling the child away and the child goes away without a solution.
Thank you for that. We will now give to Elder Sambo. Hence, I had asked people to come forward. Use this one. Oh, okay.
I think Diana has taken some of my points. But what I wanted to say, I think I wanted to comment when Elder Chimuka talked about what he talked. But before I say that, I should say this one is a tough topic. Sometimes maybe parents here will be lying, but most of us maybe we don't talk sex issues with our children. I remember when we were growing up, they would just tell you don't do stupid things. That I remember very well. They would tell us that. And then the ones who would be maybe a little bit freer would be the uncles and aunties. They are the ones who would be talking to you about this, but they also be talking in parables. You will not get it. So we are in a very difficult place because with us here, we don't stay with the real uncles and aunties who can talk to our children. So the people who are here are the uncles and the aunties. Now, how do you talk to my children when you're talking about these things? And I must be very, very careful. I must trust you because sometimes when you are talking to my child, I'm not very sure what you are talking, what you are telling my child because I don't trust you as a parent. So we are living in a very difficult. So we just see things happening. And when things happen, that's when we start talking, but where were the parents? I thought they should have known better. And the parents are all elders, you see. So elders, as you work for the church, be careful what is happening to your children because we look up to you. About what Elder Chimoka talked about first years being taken advantage of or 1, 2, 3. I remember when we were in high school, that's the age, 15, 16, 1, 2, 3. Hey, I don't know how many boys proposed me when I was in Form 1. So you would have the study period. That period is a free period. You go there, the teachers are not there, it's just students. And if you are looking good looking, I think I was good looking then. So it will be this boy, after this one, he talks to you, then it's another one. And then you get so confused. You get so confused. So I think you need to be grounded. You need to, otherwise that is the time, would be hearing things. Hey, so and so, hey, these things happen in the hedge. Things like that. That was high school. What about university? University is free for all. We see it with our own eyes. Those girls, they walk naked there. They walk, you see, the bums. And that is a child of someone and is at school. So that is the other thing. The other thing I wanted to say is that HIV, I think when it came, I was in the nursing field. It wasn't a disease for Adventists. It was not. And the church, you would not be positive. You see, so when we started seeing people being positive in church, it was like, so this one is doing, things like that. So I think that's why we are behind with this topic, because we denied a lot, thinking that is not happening in the church. And we are so holy that we cannot contract HIV. Sometimes the challenge is also the big people in the church. They start proposing our girls. Sister Diana said, if you say somebody said this, would you trust, would you believe? Because you trust me so much that I'm an elder, I cannot propose. So if your child comes, Elder Sambo is saying, you would say, not Elder Sambo. It happens. So trust your children when they come with, or find out. The other thing is parents never made mistakes. I don't know if you ever told your child, hey, when I was young, I found myself, I don't know if there's a parent who is freely here, who's, no one. And you have a child maybe out of, I'm talking about church people, we're Adventists, we're not supposed to have a child out of wedlock, 1, 2, 3. But some of us, we had our children out of, and then we made it straight. A child will be asking you, on this wedding day, how come I was your flower girl? You don't have an answer. So, yeah. So the other thing I think is the peer pressure. I think there was a time we were watching, it's a movie, but it's real. And this one, I got it from one of the girls, asking, said, Auntie, is it true that you can start having sex at 8? And this was a question. I mean, this is an honest, and this person is coming to me as a child. Yeah, you see, my friends were telling me that we can start having sex at 8. Now I'm asking myself, does she know what she's talking about? Does she understand? But these are the things they talk to each other. They talk amongst themselves. Sometimes we think they don't know, they do. But maybe they don't know the extent, but they know that something happens. So yeah, so I think those are some of the things that I wanted. The other thing what I wanted to say is, when you are saying in your introduction, you said we have got these 15 or to 19 years who are HIV because sometimes they don't use protection. Is that the word we should be using? Or how best can we teach our children? Because I think we contradict ourselves. She said abstain, and somebody is saying use protection. What message are we passing? Thank you.
Thank you. I actually love this. This is good. Now we're opening up now. See, the doors are open. The difficult is not that difficult. No, no. I think you heard what she said. Parents, we can put you on the hot seat. Maybe no, no, no. Since I underestimated you, we can. That's like, oh, it's me also. Yo, okay. I think because we're in the church. Okay, not so because we're in the church. How do I put this? You know, in the field work, I'm a field worker. I'm a lot of things, and it's a catch-20 because we use abstain, but we also have to say use condoms. The reason being is, in as much as we're going to tell our children to abstain, they're not going to abstain. And I'm not talking about the children here. Now I'm talking in general. As we're giving sex education and awareness, we're saying yes, abstain. But there'll be circumstances out of control, they will not abstain. So if they're not going to abstain, what must happen? What must happen? What prevention measures are in place for them to take? Because in as much we cannot run away from the fact that it still happened. So in as much as we're saying abstain, but for those that it's happening, they have not abstained, what must happen? So, let me actually give an example. When was it? My team, we were in Winterfeld. The team pitched up tents there, doing HIV testing and whatnot. A matric was in her uniform, highly pregnant. Highly. And one of the boys that were that they were lined up to test, he was like, literally, like, he's like, awusphosha, now we test, upregi, how come? And then I got to a condom. Now we must give her these condoms. She must go and use the condoms and she will not be pregnant again. So the point I'm trying to say is we can say to abstain, and also it's in the environment. Here, we can say abstain, because it's easy for us to tell them here to abstain. But in the communities out there, is it easy for us to tell them to abstain? So it's a catch-20, yes, where there could be another way that we can use, another wording, but it's happening. It's happening. So if they abstain, and if they don't, no, I am not a lost Adventist, Brother Mwinga. Before that, there was a hand by Brother Lovemore. I am not a lost Adventist. I am a young woman Adventist who has grown up in such.
Hello.
And I'm a health professional.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good to see everyone. I think the challenges that we face, or that our children face in our church, is that number one,
our children lack proper mentors or role models, even within our homes. As a father, I do not play the role that I'm supposed to play. I do not lead my house as a good example. I am telling my child that no, 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 you should not, you should abstain. But the child knows that the father is doing umjolo in the home. And therefore, the behavior that the child knows is not what you say, but what he sees. He sees you not sleeping at home. And he knows that Ubaba is doing umjolo with someone else. So our children lack proper role models and mentors right from home. At home, we have our wedding picture right there in front of them. And my daughter would ask us every day, why is this picture here all the time? I said, this one is here as a sign of what you should go through in marriage. Before you sleep with someone, you should go through this rite. It's a rite of passage. Number two, it's also telling you that marriage is between a man and a woman. Because the moment they leave our home, they get to school and they are told LGBTQI rights. And they are told you can identify, if you wake up today and think I can be a moose, you are a moose. So these are the things that our children are bombarded with every day. And unless we leave that example and we teach them the proper way at home, our children will fall into a pit. Secondly, I think the point has been emphasized that even at church, our children should have mentors and confidence that they can confide in and go and talk to without being judged. I know we are Adventists, but we are also African, where some of these things, for me to sit down with Stefan and start telling sexual matters, sometimes it puts you in a difficult place. But my child should have a person or a lady in church that she says, if I go to Dr. Mashitisho, I can say whatever I want. And she will give a proper guidance, number one, as a lady, but also as a professional, and also as a Christian woman. So our children should have those people. But I don't know whether our children have those relationships amongst us. Or we are in that space where, as a man, if I see a young lady coming to me, I see her as easy prey. And therefore our kids have nowhere to go. Where I am, I talk to young people, and I see young people with suicide attempts on their arms. And I said to one of them, why did you attempt to take your life? And she said, because the boyfriend I had broke up with me. And therefore it was not worth me living. And I said, this man, if he walked away from you, he's not meant for you. Leave him, let him go. Your life is not equated to this young man. Let him go. And she says, but my parents never told me that. So let's create an environment that's conducive enough for our young people to confide in us. Number two, as Christians, let's live the gospel that we preach. And I think as Christians, we have to tell our children that the way to go is for them to abstain from sexual activity as much as possible. I'll give an example of someone from Zim. There were parents who were clamoring for the Minister of Education to provide children with condoms at school. And the permanent secretary in the ministry said, well, I agree with you parents, but for you to relieve the burden from government, I am asking that when you pack the lunchbox, put a condom inside. And the parents said, no, we cannot do that. And said, if you, as a parent, cannot provide your own child, why are you putting the burden on government to say government should protect our children? Whatever you want government to do it first at home. So I think the message we need to give to our children is, number one, the way God wants it is that we have to abstain and as much as possible. And we know temptations are there. Let our children should also avoid situations that put them in a place of temptation. I always say to young girls that I talk to, never go to a young man's house alone and you think you are going to do a Bible study. It will not happen. It will not happen. We have been there before. Yeah. The moment a young man sees you in his room, there's a chair, there's a bed, the young man will sit on the chair.
And the young lady will be asked to sit on the bed. And the young lady will, I'm tired, I want to sleep. The young man will join you. And the rest is history. So our young people should also avoid situations that compromise them. Yeah, meet somewhere else where you are not going to be tempted. We always pray to God that don't lead us into temptation. But sometimes as young people, we lead ourselves into temptation. So I think let's teach our children at home. Let's create conducive environments for them at church, that as young people we are role models for them, we are open enough, and we don't take advantage of these young children. Yeah, thank you.
We're about to become very lost. But I love being lost. In my line of work, a spade is a spade. Whether we don't mistaken other things for fruits and oranges and what we call it what it is. And we just try to say, in a church space, how do we make it a safe space? How do we help the young ones? Because they still face the same problems that community children out there face as well. So this is really, really great. We have a question here before it goes to. I am. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. So, yes. No, no, no. Kidding.
Yeah. Use the platform to apologize for being a little bit harsh. I think that was. I just want to just to show you that we were comfortable with your topic. So I think the point that he has, the previous speaker and the other speakers, I think when I don't know if I'm a leader or deacon, there is a time we came up with a mentorship program. And we asked the children to choose. And you discover actually they only are comfortable to choose about 3 people. And that is a problem because I don't know how we carry ourselves out. We are not approachable. Whether we like it or not, either we are too holy for the children, or they don't trust us, or something is not right, but we are not approachable. So they could only pick, you find they are comfortable with about only 2, 3 people. Now, in a church environment, that is a problem. Now, also, in my departmental work, I also overheard women talk about what is going on in the church. That these kids, they drink, these kids, they do what they are not supposed to do. But somehow, they can't talk. Either the parent is very protective, or they're uncomfortable to fit in the shoes of being a sister and a mother to someone's child. That we need to break. I have actually overheard a lot of rumors about this one. Hey, these kids, I can use as an example because I'm a little bit, these poshers, they drink, they do this, they do what they're not supposed to do. But then you wonder, but why are we not, we know, but why are we not helping? Maybe the parent is very defensive. The parent feels embarrassed, doesn't want other people to correct, or they will feel like, me now I'm not doing my part to my children. So I judgmental to my children. So I become defensive. So how do we open up so that Brother Luke can easily approach the other child's, somebody's child and said, my sister, this is not quite, my brother, this is not, I know, you get my point, be comfortable. Because we are trying to build a society. Some children will never open up with their parents. They will never. It will take another. I'm talking about this because at some point I was a PTA chairman president. This is a Christian church. There was a white principal who told me these things are happening, but the parents came, in fact, they came with a gun in defense of their kids. Now, when I looked at it, I realized actually, despite this lady being white, what she said actually is right. These things are happening, but the parents are defensive to their children. it's a complex thing. It's a society problem. Opening up, yes, it only solved to a certain level. And you can't come in a home where we just talk about there's beer here, there's beer, you get my point. Sometimes there must be a situation that allows the talking. But I think as a society, church society, we have not opened enough to be each other's keeper and helping each other and mentoring. Say, no, there, my sister, this is not good. Get my point. Here it is. Thank you.
Okay, you can go.
Thank you. So I think I've got few points. Let me start with the first one around abstinence or condomize. I think we should understand that there's context. You'll correct me if I'm maybe not aligned. The conversation we're having here, it's not a Bible study. Okay, it's a health talk. It's an awareness conversation. So, which might be we will talk about abstinence, touch condomize, and because it's for information purposes. But when we have a Bible study, let me just make an example. Let's say our fundamental belief on Christian behavior. One of the things that we would touch would be from a youth context, would be around abstinence emphasis, because we'll be touching around sexual immorality. So I just wanted that let's maybe frame our conversation around that context so that you understand that for now, it's about information purpose, because also there's a dynamic to it, because remember that what we learn in here at church, we are going to share it with our neighbors. And I might find myself in a context where a young man in my same street is already engaging in sex. That's so you might find that I can say abstinence, but it says I'm failing. I don't know how to stop this thing. So whilst you are dealing with it, I can't say have a careless sexual behavior. So I just wanted maybe just to provide that clarity. Then I think my point of emphasis is that from a male perspective, particularly with our boys, I think we have a challenge as men that we ought to teach our boys, our sons, our nephews, to the meaning of loving or having a relationship with a girl without the expectation that the objective of the relationship is to engage in sexual activity. Because today we live in an environment where the into this relationship, it's more like a disguise. That, I'm sharing this lady to say I love them, but the main thing is for them to sleep with that girl. So I think we also have a challenge that we ought to ask God for help, that we teach them we teach them the genuine love, and empower them to navigate relationships with their fellow girls of their peers, because these are the type of conversations that we are having the conversations, but maybe we don't have practical strategies to empower ourselves. Maybe I think it's a challenge that as a church we should start thinking about empowering ourselves as parents. As much we talk about them, but maybe like for myself, I don't have a teenager yet in the house, but I think it would be beneficial if maybe we can our own seminars to understand, so that I can learn and be ready, so that when that time comes, then I'm empowered, as opposed to have this good conversation, but the timing it's off because it's already late. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see that Takomedwa. I mean, we are enjoying ourselves. We are okay. I've noted your hand. Just gonna give another maybe 10 minutes, And then the next segment for the next 10 minutes, the panel will have their comments as well with everything that we've heard. Then I want us going into solutions. Because we can talk, we can talk, we can give information, but then as a church, what are we going to do? And I want us to make a commitment. People that we are here, the health department, whether we'll still be serving next year or not, but it's something that it needs to be ongoing. So the next segment is solutions. I already started hearing a few solutions, but then practical solutions. What are we going to do? We've heard from Aunt Diana. Already children are approaching and asking. We've heard Elder Sambo, an 8-year-old, asked something. You know, boys, we've heard only 3. They chose only 3. How many men do we have in the church? And only 3. No, that is a big problem. What are we going to do? So after Lovemore speaks, we are then going to go into that for 5 minutes. We are really over time. Oh, there's also a hand there. Oh, is it bid there? Okay, solution. Okay, so Lovemore, you speak, and then we'll have 5 minutes for solutions, and we'll ask our leader to be noting down these solutions.
I think it was more on the solutions bit. So.
Oh, and then we can start with the solutions.
Yeah. Oh,
and
okay.
then we can start with the solutions.
I wanted to say, I think as a church, we need to have strategic alliances. We need to have strategic alliances as families, where one Sabbath you just say, Caleb, today you are going for lunch at the Sambos. In the meantime, me and Mr. Sambo, we've strategized and say, talk to my young men about relationships. And when he goes there, he thinks he's just going to have chambo and rice. But in the meantime, we have created a relationship where they can talk. Because I think sometimes these conversations are difficult with our own children. And as he has said, some of us don't have experiences in raising teenagers. But we have families in our community who have already passed that stage. And they have many teenagers that they've raised, both boys and girls. So if we create those relationships where I feel comfortable in sending my kids to the wingers to be counseled, to be given guidance, professional guidance, even on relationships, I think that can help our young people and also create a relationship for these young people to confide in these other families, and vice versa. If I send your kids to you, send your kids to me. And obviously we know that we are advising from the same platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lottie.
Thank you for this topic, health ministries. I think from my end, the solution is that we also need to break cultural barriers. These are very important to break. Because you can say, in my culture, we don't discuss this. In my culture, I don't talk to a boy about this. In my culture, a woman should not talk to a man in like this. So we need to come to a point where we break these cultural barriers, and it starts with us as parents. And if we find ourselves in that situation where we actually are breaking those cultural barriers, we are going to go far. Our kids will come to us with open mind that, no, you know what, I can be able to talk to dad without being judged. I can be able to talk to my mother without being judged by her. So a cultural barrier should be broken down so I can be able to have a conversation. I grew up in a very cultural setup whereby my father would be like, you know what, go speak to so and so, you know. And later on, when he realized that you have grown up, only then he's starting to speaking to you. But if that culture was broken at the earlier age or earlier stage, life could have been easy to have a conversation with your own dad, with your own mother. So let us break that cultural barrier and impart that spirit of being free around our kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more solutions? I'm tempted to put Sister Diana on the spot since she was approached. What do you think we could do? I've noted your hand. So just Sister Diana, because you have the practicality, you have experienced it. What do you think the health ministry is going forward? Because what would happen now, even though we've come to the end of the year, officers will come in, this will be part of handover, and we carry on. So we are building something. Let's do the solutions and let's be practical.
Thank you, Portia. I think the suggestions that have been given by the two speakers make a lot of sense. That we can identify as families people that can mentor our children and have a conversation with the children. Don't just force the mentor on your child, because you might be I might be comfortable with Sister B. I call her Sister B. I might be comfortable with her, and yet maybe my child is not. We have to have a conversation. Who would you feel free to talk to? And then that way it will make it easier. But we also need to have sessions. I don't know whether we can call them workshops or sessions with our children, and have people who are able to pitch the information at their level, because it all has levels. A 10-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-something-year-old. The levels are different. So we need to identify people in church that could take our children through these workshops and mentoring. Maybe we can call them mentoring sessions, because that one session that I had with those girls, it was just a one-off. But there were so many questions, so many concerns, so many fears. So it must be something that is ongoing. It mustn't just be a hit and run. So if we could have, my solution, have mentoring sessions with young people, but also categorize them, because they are all at different stages. Some are now maybe at a stage where they're looking for a partner, they're dating. Some just have to deal with these feelings and what they should do, because what they're told at school, the policy, in education, is that if children are the same age and they can experiment, and there's nothing wrong. It only becomes wrong if the boy is older. But if, let's say, 14-year-olds are caught experimenting, it's not a big deal. They are said to be exploring their bodies. So the information out there is really totally against what we believe here. So let us guard our children. Let's gather them. Let's mentor them. Let's talk to them, so that we don't find ourselves in trouble.
Good solutions, good solutions. There was a hand here. He's been having it up for a while.
Thank you so much. My take would be on I don't know what the children are learning at school. I get worried because I've never been informed what they learn, what they know in those life what orientation sessions. Is it possible that somebody can give us what they are learning, so that we as a church can use our own doctrines to to advise that when they will hear this, when we are being told this is okay, this is what the Bible says in terms of the doctrine. We customize our doctrines to help them, because if we continue doing this, they get a different message at school, which totally it contradicts what we've been telling. We are not going to achieve anything. And also the issue of us being judgmental. I think this is, I think, not just the health department, but I think the entire church. We need to stop being judgmental, because a lot of young people have gone elsewhere because they feel that they are being judged. There's a church, what is this community church in Jean Avenue? Huh? Central, is it? Youth Central, yes. That one, that community. I've been there. And then when you go there, you find that it's an open church which accepts the youth of different, you know, uh, beliefs and all that. You can even tell from how they look and what they're doing there, but they are accepted there. So maybe we need to think about also this aspect of not being judgmental. When we see somebody with, you know, strange kind of looks, and then we judge them that they are LGBT or whatever, QI, whatever it is. We know, you can tell from how they are dressed, you know. So this attitude of being judgmental towards those, I think it must change. But that's an entire church thing, not just a departmental issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, to mention about LGBTQI, I went with the ambassadors at Maragon last Sabbath, and there were three visibly. You could see the way they were dressed, the way they were walking. They, you know, you could see. But what I noticed and what actually broke my heart was that those three sat together the entire time and no one spoke to them. No one spoke to them, and they left. Mina, I was minding my own no. I was minding my own no, but it was an observation, and maybe I didn't because also I wanted to see what would happen, and not even our own approached. I guess that's the point I'm also trying to make, that even our own did not. So on that point that you're making, I think of judgment is very important. It's so visible. We don't even say it. We are acting it out. So yeah. Time, we need to be mindful. Are there any more solutions? Oh, chow me. Murut. Ah, you were very quiet.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah. I'm just coming as part of the solutions. I'm just going back to the history of the Bible. That the father was supposed to be a complete father who is supposed to know everything. Is the priest of the family, is the counselor of the family, is everything. He has to be educated in all the variety of things. And I want to include also the mother in there, that they were supposed to counsel their own children at home, not to leave it to somebody else. Unfortunately, we want to leave it to the churches, to the schools, to the institutions, but it is the responsibility of the father. In the Jewish society, the fathers, the parents, they do their part. I'm not sure about the syllabus, but at the age of 13, I'm sure 13 years if I'm not mistaken, the children are being graduated in what they've learned. Of course, spiritually, I think that it does not only include that, it also includes that kind of an education. That is why they are taught very well that it is very rare to find an Israelite marrying outside of the circles according to the directives that are coming from the Bible. So if things are going out of hand, why doesn't the parents hold it here at home and talk straight? Because definitely if the children are going to face the music, the parents are going to face the music as well. And I do not know. I heard that among the Afrikaner people, I've not lived with Afrikaner, even though I can speak Afrikaans very well, because I studied Afrikaans during our time. All the subjects we were doing them in Afrikaans, yes. And I passed all the subjects. I don't remember how I passed, but I passed. And I heard that the Afrikaners, they do sit their children, they do talk to their children. they do talk to their girls. And sometimes they do even wrong things there. I've heard that they can even do some practical lesson to say what is really happening in the world, just like that. So I think that I'm coming back to the parents now. What kind of a father are you? Are you waiting for the other fathers to teach your children about life when you know about life? The mother, are you waiting another mother to come and talk to your girls while you are there and you know exactly what is happening? I think that it is high time that we take the responsibility into our hands, because the times in which we are living, I'm listening to people who don't trust. You don't trust that this father, if he's talking to my children, you trust. No, you don't trust. Or this mother, you don't trust. So why don't you take a responsibility yourself to trust yourself if you don't trust anybody? So that is one of the solutions that I think that let us go and review what are responsibilities of the parents. Thank you.
One more. Okay, you are the last one. Then we'll have the closing comments from our panelists, and also if you have a solution, because we are noting it down. Yeah.
Thank you. I think mine will be two things. I'll start with the first one. The concern around that when they were looking for mentors, young people could only think of 3. So, and I hope maybe I'm one of the 3. So it's very concerning. It's a challenge to us as AMO that I don't know how we would address it. We'll just have to have a discussion about it. Let me just make an example for me to understand the context. I would sit with someone who's my age, my peer. But when we have a conversation, I'm feeling like I'm having a conversation with a 60-year-old who's 40 plus. Do you understand where I'm going? You find that we are of a certain age. Let me just make an example. Myself and Tata Mashitisho, we may be both male, but we are different generations. So there are certain things which are common where he would advise how we will align, but there are certain things then when we will talk, or if I want to talk to him about, I would be cautious about the language I'm using. I wouldn't be free. Do you understand? Then if I find myself that you are having someone your age, but you don't have that freedom. So what makes you think that a 16-year-old will be free to talk to us, where myself at 40, when I speak to a 40-year-old, I feel like I'm speaking to a person who's 60. So it says to us as men, maybe we are not being honest, we are pretending. So as we sit in a circle, I behave like 60, I'm not being myself. So maybe we just need to consider and be genuine, be honest about ourselves. Because if we think our age, we live our age, but within context, accommodating for different generations, we will be able to actually, it will be easier also for the younger ones to come into the circle. Maybe the reason why they can't come into the circle is because ourselves, we don't understand our circle. Then number 2, which is the last part, I think maybe we are speaking the same thing. There's a concept that Muslims, I think the same example as Murud about the Jews and the Afrikaners. The Muslims, they've got what they call madrasa. I don't know if you know about those classes. So a madrasa is that they identify males, it's both males. I forgot the name of the ladies, but I'll just speak from the context of the boys. After school, they've got these classes that they go to. There will be an old man who's retired, or a person, a young man who'll volunteer, where they teach them how they should behave as Muslim boys. It's not something that they partly teach at school, but this one is specific, where they teach them around the laws of health, the laws. So I think maybe probably if we can have a version of our own, where we have our madrasas there according to the young age, because I'm thinking that if I can start a conversation about hygiene, personal hygiene, to a young boy, it's very easy to build up with sexuality. It's very easy to add on that foundation about sexual education that I'm able to build up. So maybe as a suggestion, let's maybe consider something and around that. Maybe we run it through the AMO department. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I think we'll have to have another session like this, because I see now that's when hands are coming up, heads are nodding, smiles are coming. So, but unfortunately, we are out of time. So now we will have closing comments from our panelists. But your job was easy. They made your job easy. But if you also have solutions, please do say. Our leader is taking them down with your closing comment. Then after, I'll call upon our health department leader to give us closing remarks and prayer.
Yeah, just two comments. The first one is that it's just that we as parents, we must not make a mistake and to think that all the children have accepted Christ as their personal savior. I think that's the mistake we would make. If we start to enforce let's teach but don't enforce. Because if you don't individualize children in the house, you treat them as a group, that this is a group of Christians, you will be disappointed. The main issue is, let's win them for Christ. That's number one. Number two, when coming to issue of HIV and AIDS, it doesn't matter whether you are a Christian or not, it will come to the house. So my advice would be, have a strategy on how to teach the children in their house. For an example, the issue of not even condoms, in general, if you've got a girl, the girl will ask you, should I use contraceptives? And then the parents will say, no, Christians don't do that, which is not really true. It's not really correct. Let's individualize them. And now speaking on our side as professionals, when we manage patients, we manage Christians and non-Christians. And then when we do our professional work, you don't have a child coming to you who is coming from the township there, and then he wants to get an information, and then he tells you very well that I've got a challenge. This is what they teach us at school, and my lifestyle is not right. Obviously, yes, you'll teach them about Christ and so on, but you'll ask you about the use of condoms. If you don't teach him that condoms are used by people getting into sexual activity, even mostly non-Christians use them. Even Christians use them in their homes, those who are married. The children have never seen them. So those children, when your aim is to protect the public, that these children must not die, don't think that usage of condom is sin. I think that's where we are going to make a problem. Because if you say to them, this non-Christian must not use them, but he is engaged in sexual activity, and he tells you this is the type of life I live, he is going to be, while you are busy preaching to him, the next 6 months he is not repented and is not using them, and is engaged in sexual activity, he will have HIV for sure. I mean, he's going to get HIV. and then you shall have not done your work as a parent, as a professional. That's what when you are saying that you and as a professionals, we sometimes, and most of the time, we face with difficulties. Yeah, it's like getting a girl who is pregnant, who has been raped, and he says to you, "Can I do an abortion?" You, as a pastor, comes and say, "All babies come from the Lord," which is true. And then this child is, "I'm going to give birth to this child who is from rape," and then this person, my parents say I must do this. What must I do? That it depends on the situation. That now my advice would be, that's the first advice: individualized situations. That's one. Individual situation. Don't treat situation as a group. Then the last one, I don't want to talk too much because of time. The last one on my side is coming back to the church. Let's teach, don't instruct. Teach. And then these children are going to get educated and they are going to make decisions. If you instruct, they will disobey the instruction. You will have a problem. Let's teach as professionals. Teach them. If you educate, there will be results. I don't know that the message is clear. Let's educate. Yes, education is important. We can sit here as parents and say, "Don't do this, don't do that," and give instructions. They will do it. And then you will be surprised. They will do it. You will be disappointed. So let's teach. And then the children will ask questions. And don't fight with them. If the child says, "So and so is," I'm as Sister Diana was talking. Don't fight with them. Just teach. That will have. That's my few comments. Others will deal with them in the future. But let's educate, and then that will it'll protect our children. Remember, today's HIV awareness is not prevention of pregnancy. It's HIV awareness. Now, how do we prevent HIV transmission? And then if you teach, then the child will make a decision, and then you will know that I'm not in jail here. I'm being taught, and then I'm free to make a decision, but I'm being taught what is the right thing to do. That will be my short comment. Thank you very much.
That's true. That's what Jesus taught, isn't it? He said, "Go ye therefore and teach." And it's only when you are taught that you are able to make an informed decision. So I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
A lot of solutions have been shared which are preventative, but in the case where HIV or AIDS is already there, let us work on stigma issues. As a church, stigmatizing people who are victims, as well as teaching them the truth in love. As the panelists have mentioned, what Christ did was to show us the way. You know, he was found among sinners and he condemned them not. So in the same way, as we deal with people around us who are affected or infected with HIV and AIDS, let us not stigmatize. Thank you.
Amen and amen.
We have a young person.